You're listening to the Multiverse Fancast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
Be ready. All right then. On with the show.
And hello, and welcome back to the Multiverse Fancast. This is Rob, your host for today. Don't forget, you can take us on the go with Podbeam, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, or any other listening stations. We are out there, we are live, and we are ready for your ears. You can also check out our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com, where you can find a whole host of our past reviews, our past writing, a little bit about the hosts, and some past podcasts, where you can also check out such great podcasts as Cinematic Adventures and Bibliophiles Assembler. Do they have anything on there? Eventually. And we have some other big plans for the website too, and that'll be in the forthcoming weeks, since now it's summer.
It is summer.
And I would like to say hello to my good friend and co-host co-host? Is that what I'm going to call you today? Co-host. Paul. Paul, how are you today?
I'm good, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing really, really, really well. And we've got a great show planned for you today. Today we are talking about Lucifer.
Da-na-na-na-na. Wow. Nailed it.
And we have a lot to say. I have to say they got me into this show, and we've been talking off air a lot about it, but we're going to get into that today. We'll get into all full spoilers all through season 5, I believe. I think that's fair to say. And if you have time, check out our last few podcast episodes. Our last one before this was our famous and infamous R-rated superhero. That was a wild ride of a show, and some great things came out of that one.
Well, even better, it kind of also helped inspire this episode, yes, where, you know, Lucifer was a topic of conversation during our R-rated superheroes, because the episode wasn't just our favorite R-rated superheroes. It's superheroes that deserve an R-rated.
Yes.
And I know Lucifer was brought up. You know, I'm sure, you know, if you've listened to it, you kind of get the gist of where we stand with him. So we are super excited to... and even better, this is a series. Lucifer is a series that actually kind of was able to go to a more R-rated territory once it changed from network television for Fox to Netflix. They showed butts.
Woohoo!
They used profanity.
I heard the F word in there once.
That's always hilarious. I remember. So, full disclosure, my wife and I started watching this show, and we binged it. And the thing about binging these kind of shows, especially a Fox show, season, I don't remember if it was season 2 or 3, was really long.
Oh, that was season 3, I believe. Yeah.
Which was the last Fox season.
Yeah, and that's why it was probably the last Fox season.
Well, the problem is network television, especially channels like Fox, the CW is famous for it too, really long seasons. Mm-hmm. Netflix, really short seasons. And they put it all out there.
But longer episodes.
Yes.
Because they're not bound by commercial television.
Correct. There's a lot of debate for people who stream, which most people do nowadays, whether or not releasing it all at once is the better option, releasing it weekly. I know Disney Plus and HBO Max are the weekly subscriptions. I think if a service is starting out, it's the smart way to go because you want to keep those people. DC Universe, when that was still a thing, when Titans first came out, they did every week they released an episode. We're binge watching that too. We're almost done with season 2.
I'm going to catch up to you soon. Hopefully, yeah.
I think we're on the very last episode of season 2.
Ooh. But Amazon Prime, I know they're mostly weekly, right? Because I remember The Boys came out week by week.
And if you listen to our previous episode, I'm sure you heard
us
talk about The Boys.
We talked in our last episode a lot about The Boys and about the liberties they take with the R rating, which works well with the format that they publish. So
absolutely,
yeah.
But so Lucifer, I didn't watch when it first was on Fox. I know you definitely didn't, Rob.
No.
But and I know the reason we started watching it is I'm a big fan of the Arrowverse, despite its current state, with the exception of Superman and Lois, which is
it's funny too that it's even called the Arrowverse anymore, considering that Arrow is no longer on the air.
They did try and change it. They tried to it was like CW Comic Verse or some silly name that they tried to.
Silly.
But Arrowverse just kind of stuck,
yeah.
And I think it always will.
Because it was the very first of all those shows.
Yeah,
so
and it's obviously the template. But we were watching Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Constantine and Lucifer have a scene together, which was huge at the time. Even though Crisis had a lot of callbacks to other shows, especially like Smallville had a big part to play in it, for a great scene. Brandon Routh as Superman. Birds of Prey, which was another show on the WB.
Oh gosh, I never even saw that.
Oh, I watched the whole thing.
Wait, on the CW or WB?
WB.
I thought you said that properly.
I did, and yeah. So,
wow,
but to have Constantine and Lucifer.
Was that when the frog was in charge of the...
Oh, yeah. So, there are a few shows that survived the CW WB cross or the
merger, yeah.
Yeah, so Smallville, Supernatural, they were shows that started off on the WB, and then...
Oh, I don't think I knew that about Supernatural.
Yep, they survived the CW resurgence, and now Supernatural is getting a spinoff. Did you hear that?
No. Oh, please let it be about the Chicago Gin.
No, that was a joke. We talked about it in the last episode. But anyway, a lot of callbacks to our previous episode. So weird. But when I saw Lucifer in his one scene on Crisis on Infinite Earths, it was enough for me to be like, you know what? I think we should give Lucifer a try. And what a show it turned into. And I remember I talked this show up to you for a while.
Yeah. I have to say, when I saw that scene happen, and if... See, this is how much I don't remember it. Mazikeen was in that too, right?
No. So what happened? The scene was very simple. It was...
Okay, I'm not remembering it
They need to get
properly.
they need to get to Purgatory to get Oliver's soul.
I
because
remember
they
that,
bring his
yes.
body back, but they can't. And John's powers are wasting away because of the crisis.
Right.
So they go to Earth 666, which is just
Of course.
just
It's
fun,
a little on the nose, but fine.
but perfect. Well, DC's never been subtle.
No.
Comic book shows shouldn't be subtle. But they go to Earth 666 and they meet Lucifer at his club.
Yes.
And he mentions that he owes John for Mazikeen. Now, I actually did research, which is strange for me.
Ooh.
So apparently, pre-Crisis,
Okay.
John was the one that got Mazikeen out of hell. Because the demon mythology...
So you're talking pre-Lucifer.
Pre-Lucifer.
Okay.
Apparently that scene takes place in the 5 years since Lucifer has set up shop on Earth.
Okay.
So, because they say in Lucifer 5 years ago he took his vacation and he's been on Earth for 5 years. I mean, you find out later that he's been on Earth a few times, but right now it's during the 5 years, and he's the one. John Constantine's the one that got Maze out of hell because demons need to inhabit a body. Those would then be the rules, but Maze was the only exception. So in continuity, John Constantine was the one that got Maze out of hell, and that's why Lucifer owed him a favor.
Okay.
And they do specifically say, I do owe you for Maze.
Okay.
So,
all right. And that was your first experience in seeing that.
that was my first experience seeing Lucifer.
Now, I know when I saw that, people had to point out to me that that's Lucifer. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, he does obviously introduce himself, and
Right.
John refers to him as such. And
I think the big shocking thing was, and I remember having this conversation with you, that it was they actually got the guy who plays Lucifer on the show Lucifer, which was on Fox at the time, to come to the CW and join in, which was obviously a big deal.
Very difficult continuity wise.
A lot of lawyers, I
Yeah,
assume.
they've done it a few times. So a couple of examples: Constantine himself, he was on NBC at the time,
Right.
and then his show got canceled, and they were able to use him. They had there's another one that Human Target. They had him on Arrow. He was another Fox show.
What is Human Target?
Human Target's an assassin that can. I don't think he can shapeshift, but he like makes masks of other people. He's almost like the chameleon.
Okay.
But another DC property.
Good quality.
Yeah. So there have been a few exceptions, but it's never an easy process, unfortunately.
No.
So the problem that they ran into was, obviously a logistical one, but they were able to figure it out, which is awesome, and it's a great scene. And there's a great photo of the two of them that they took behind the scenes where they're like in the alley, and like John's standing there, Constantine's kind of leaning, like just pure character swagger. Like,
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool shot, and that was one of the best things. Crisis had a lot of fun surprises, even though like some of the things we knew. Unfortunately, a lot of the casting stuff had been spoiled. Lucifer hadn't been fully spoiled. There was always rumors, and obviously Ezra Miller never got spoiled, and that was one of the biggest surprises. And now, of course, they're saying that we're going to see Barry Allen the Flash, the TV show Barry Allen in the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
They're going to do the same scene. I think they're just going to. Because
maybe reverse shot it.
Well, unfortunately, all the or show the buildup of movie Barry getting there, but unfortunately, like all these set photos are getting leaked from the Flash.
Yeah, that's tough.
Like they leaked Supergirl's costume.
I saw that the other day. Yeah.
Which, I'm glad they're not doing the same as the show, and it like she's obviously.
Oh, it looked the same to me. What was different about it?
Oh, she's got the red on top that kind of feeds into the cape. She's got the short black hair.
All right. Maybe I'm thinking of. I don't think I saw the photo then, because I saw a photo of Supergirl, and maybe it was not the big reveal.
They haven't actually done the big reveal yet. It's all been behind the scenes stuff. Same with Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne.
That I saw.
Yeah, that's been floating around. And that's why they released the Shazam stuff, because all that
might as well.
Those costumes look good, though. Yeah. Those Shazam costumes.
I know you love those.
I do like the Shazam costumes.
Did you see Helen Mirren's costume?
No, why?
No, I'm not making a joke.
I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah, because she's on there, too.
Yeah.
And she's got sort of a warrior vibe to it, too.
I didn't see it.
Oh, it's cool.
I do like how the new Mary is the old Mary. Did you hear about that?
What is this?
So in the new Shazam...
Tangent to a tangent.
Well, we were still talking about all this, but Mary... and obviously in the first Shazam, when they transform, they're different actors.
Yes.
She's gotten old enough that she just turns into herself.
Okay.
But they just add like a little bit of makeup.
Oh,
I thought that was cool.
I
thought that was... Because that's always the question, especially with movies where you got like big age gaps or breaks in between.
You want to make it.
Yeah, eventually Billy Batson's going to be going to college, and he's like, Shazam, oh, I look the same.
That's like what's her Trixie on Lucifer, where she's aging quickly.
Yep.
So the way I got into the show was, we in our household we're a big fan of a lot of mythology shows and fantasy shows. Anything with a good backstory that's got obviously this all started back with Harry Potter, and then it just kept growing from there. And my wife is always very big with a lot of the fantasy novels and everything. Actually, I think our next thing we're watching is Shadow and Bone on Netflix.
Oh, I've heard it's very good.
Yes. But we had always wanted to watch Supernatural, and you and everyone here is huge fans of Supernatural. And at 15 seasons, I'm like, and 327 episodes.
Very intimidating.
I'm like, we can't do it. This is going to take forever. And my wife and I were looking through Netflix and through everything so much so one day, trying to find what we're going to watch next, that my wife just goes, come on, we might as well just get started and see where it goes. And we started it, and we were hooked right away with Supernatural, and we watched all 15 seasons, and it's a huge part of our lives now. In fact, for Father's Day, I just got a Supernatural tank top. I won't spoil it for you. I'll have to show. I'll wear it for you sometime.
It is very hard to find male Supernatural clothing.
Oh, wait till you see what I got. I won't. I'll wear it to the show one day.
I can't wait.
And then after Supernatural, I kind of asked you, well, what should we watch next? And I thought I think I mentioned, should we watch Buffy next? And you're like, well, yeah, sort of. And you said, but you need to watch Lucifer. That's just the next thing that makes logical sense after Supernatural. And you were right, that it is something where it's got a lot of the strong mythology, a lot of the sort of, what's neat about it is it has that same approach to religion and the afterlife that Supernatural had. Where,
very similar, yes.
Yeah, where it isn't really what you've read in the Bible and what you've been taught in Sunday school or CCD, where it's, there's more than one God. There's many gods oftentimes. There's summoning that is, because being raised in the church, you're always taught, oh no, summoning is bad, and these shows are like, no, it's a means of communication, which is very, very different.
Well, it's also, Lucifer they're very light on the magic stuff.
Yeah,
like exceptionally light. That's why, like, looking back on the scene with Constantine where he gives him a magic card, like, they didn't really do, like, the closest thing they had to magic was when he had his coin in the very beginning of the show.
I remember that.
But like that coin could have been him, using his own powers to make it move. It wasn't even the coin.
Yeah.
So I like that, because Supernatural, like, the first couple of seasons, they did not do a whole lot of magic, but by the end of it, Sam was readily proficient in it.
He had his visions and stuff. Yeah.
Well, he had his psychic powers in the beginning, but like, if you guys watch Supernatural, mild spoilers, but by like season 15, Rowena's kind of taken Sam under her wing a little bit by the end of it, which is still one of my favorite relationships in the entire show.
Really?
Sam and Rowena? Oh, absolutely. Especially by the end.
See, I like Sam and Crowley.
Yeah. But, this show, there is a little bit of magic and a little bit of... But it's always things from heaven and how they interact with humans.
Yes.
Which I think is always a great... and I love how this show definitely... You ever see Dogma?
Oh, many times.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
It's impossible to find anywhere nowadays.
Really?
You cannot stream it anywhere.
I have it on DVD if you ever need
Oh,
to
no,
borrow
I
it.
appreciate that. I might take you up on that.
If
But
only I could find Fanboys on DVD.
yeah, it's upstairs. You should definitely check it out, though. But or listen to our episode on Cinematic Adventures. So one of the things, though, that I love about Dogma is they make it a point that humans can't hear God. Like, it would destroy them. They do a great job on this show dealing with the ramifications of, if I'm not particularly a religious person. I love studying religion. You and I are kind of in the same vein with that. Like we love like our mythology, and that's why we love superheroes so much. They're modern mythology. But you know what it is? I love how they deal with it, like how humans would interact with the divine. And there's some great scenes. Like, I love Dan. Dan's one of my favorite characters in the show. Only towards the end. I did not like him in the beginning, but his redemptive story and arc like really did it for me. But like when he finds out that all this stuff is true, and like, oh man, it's like, it's heart-wrenching sometimes to see some of these characters, and then to find out that you choose to go to hell.
Yeah.
Like that's some deep stuff for a comic book TV show. They really tackle some issues, and I dig it. It's fantastic.
So let's lay some foundations down a little bit for Lucifer for our listeners, and let's talk a little bit about what the show is. First of all, let's talk about how it came to be.
Yes.
It is based off of Neil Gaiman's Lucifer character
From
Sandman. Now, if you've read any of Sandman, you'll know that first of all, I will say that Sandman, and inarguably, is one of the greatest comics ever made. Have you ever read Sandman?
I'm well versed enough.
Okay. Neil Gaiman is someone I admire and appreciate, but I don't necessarily enjoy. He is, oftentimes a lot of his writing is very, it's doesn't reach an audience directly. It doesn't engage an audience directly. It's more philosophical. It's more thought-provoking. So he's great at making characters, and his visuals are amazing. But I feel a bit of a distance whenever I read read Neil Gaiman's comics. But Lucifer was created, I believe, in the second Sandman.
Yes.
Okay.
He first
Was that
appears
Doll's
in
House, I think?
Volume 2, Number 4.
Okay, Volume 2, Number 4.
So he's a relatively, I hate to say the phrase new character, but 1989 is when this came out.
Yeah.
So like
Sandman's been around for a while.
Yeah, but
and it's beautiful. It's an incredible mythology, but it's not always accessible. That's the word I'm trying to come up with.
Yeah. So the thing about Sandman is it wasn't always part of DC. It was more of an offshoot.
Yeah.
DC was very famous for having other titles that weren't in the main continuity. It is now currently in the main continuity.
Okay.
The Sandman title is one of the only graphic novels to ever be on the New York Times bestseller list, along with Watchmen, The Dark Knight Returns. It is considered one of the best, or one of the greatest comic books of all time. They are making an adaptation, which is kind of exciting. Lucifer is going to be portrayed by a woman, though.
Okay.
Which could be interesting. It's good. So let's establish this really quick. The Lucifer on TV is very different than the Lucifer in the comic books. There are some similarities.
Mm-hmm.
They're both considered acceptable.
Oh, you're talking about overall. I thought you meant the character.
Same. Like the character too. I think they even poke fun of it. They're like, no, Lucifer's supposed to be blonde. He's like, why does everybody keep saying that?
Yes.
But like Lucifer in the TV show, he's suave, he's funny, he's charming. He's really just there to like have a good time and bring out people's desires. Mm-hmm. In the comics, he's different, and even characters like Amenadiel is very different in the comics.
Yeah. And Mazikeen too.
Mazikeen, very different. But once they put him into the main continuity, Lucifer in the comic books is one of the most powerful beings, second only to, I believe, the Presence. I think he's more powerful than both Michael and Amenadiel in the comics. So. But Lucifer is exceptionally powerful, and the Presence, for those of you guys who don't know, is like the god of the DC universe, the most powerful being in existence. But
so then after Sandman came out, there were 7 books of that, and in each of those books, I believe there were 6 issues. And then Sandman came out and came and gone, and years later they revisited Sandman and they started to do offshoots of Sandman, and there's a few of them, and one of them it was Lucifer. And in the Lucifer timeline there, he does in fact decide to give up being, Lord of the Underworld, and he decides to come to L.A. and he does get a club. He gets Lux, which of course is the word for light, and that's about it where the similarities stay. Because I read a couple issues of Lucifer this week. I'd never read them before, and he doesn't solve crimes with the police department. There's no, the characters are there, Amenadiel is there and Mazikeen is there. And it establishes the basic premise and characters, but that's it. Then the show kind of went its own way and decided to kind of go off as sort of like a procedural show. So, that's about it. And then what happened was when they started the show, first of all, it started out on Fox, right?
Correct.
And it ran for 3 seasons on Fox. I don't think at any point it was a ratings bonanza or anything. It did well enough. But what they did was at the end of season 3, they at the end of season 3, they decided to cancel it about, I think, like a day before they aired the season finale.
Something like that, yeah.
And so the season finale, for example, if you look up on IMDb, their season finale is rated really, 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 really high because everyone was like really rallying. There were petitions. There were a lot of people that loved this.
Lucifans.
Is that what they're called?
That is the
I
term,
did not
Lucifans,
know that.
yes.
So that was the 24th episode of the 3rd season. So the outcry was so big that Fox then found 2 more episodes lying around.
So weird, yeah.
And they decided to release those after. Like there was no plan, but they decided because of the reaction to release these, and they released them 2 weeks later. They're not great. I watched them, and that's why season 3 is actually 26 episodes, because most seasons are never that long.
That's
They're only like
long.
22 or 24 episodes. So that's where those last 2 episodes came from, and they were not like. It wasn't in the continuity either.
They're kind of standalones.
And I read that too, that they do that a lot. Actually, I don't know if it was the Fox showrunners or Fox itself. They did that a lot where they would take an episode and they would rearrange it and air it like before or later. Like it really reminded me of. Are you a fan of Firefly at all?
Yeah. Oh, Firefly's a mess if you watch it in the airing order.
It really is.
A lot of times they'll do it though. Usually for some sort of real life event. I know like shows that deal with like bombs or explosions after the Boston Marathon, they rearrange the order. So like things like that they do. But Firefly was just, Fox did not know what to do with that property.
And they would change times of airing and days all the time.
The continuity was all over the place.
And it was only like 14 episodes.
Something like that,
too.
Yeah. But I think we'll jump into the cast after this, but first we'll take a quick break.
A quick break it is.
And then when we come back, we'll break down the cast and some of our favorite things about Lucifer and things that don't make any sense at all. But first, quick break. Today's episode is brought to you by Ray's Energy Drinks from Rep Sports. Whether you're trying to crush your afternoon workout or just need a little extra pick-me-up, Ray's Energy is just the boost that you're going to need. So if you go to repsports.com and any product that you order, enter the code MISFIT89 at checkout to receive 15% off. Anything that you guys buy from that store helps our network grow, and we fully appreciate everything you guys do. That's MISFIT89 at checkout, repsports.com.
And we're back, and we're talking about Lucifer. And we just spent some time laying down the foundations for how this show came to be and how it came together. And we came up to that it had 3 seasons on Fox, and then it went away. And then about 3 months later, Netflix said, surprise, we're taking it. And they pour that Netflix money into it, and it grows and grows and grows. And that's where we got season 4 and season 5 parts 1 and 2. They decided to split season 5 into 2. So season 4, they came up with, I think it was 10 episodes. And then season 5 was 8 and 8, I think it was.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah,
and
they had 16 episodes in season 5. Season 6, which is going to be the last one, is going to be 10 episodes.
Yes.
Season 4 was 10, season 3 26, season 2 18, season 1 only 13.
Yeah. And that's typical of a first season show with something daring like this, that they're not sure what the response is going to be. So, and unfortunately then they put all their eggs in one basket with season 3, and season 3 is hard to get through.
Season 3 is where the show kind of starts to really slow down.
So if any of you are just starting out with the show and watching it for the first time, it is a great start. It really ramps up. It goes quick. It gets a bit repetitive at times, but if you can hang in there, once it gets to Netflix, it really, really takes off.
Oh, yeah. Especially the most recent season.
Yeah, they're although I might disagree. I might argue with you.
All right, that's fair.
One.
That's fair.
So the move to Netflix helped it tremendously because, of course, then they weren't held to time limits. Most television shows in an hour format are held to about 42 minutes because you have to have 18 minutes of commercials. The pacing can be a little bit different, too, because you're not breaking for commercials all the time.
I do like how Lucifer, even on Netflix, still does commercial break spots.
He does.
They still do. Yeah.
You still feel that. The episodes are longer on Netflix. They are almost approaching an hour at times.
Less censorship.
Less censorship. Yeah, you started to see some nudity. Nothing gratuitous.
It was always just men's butts. We got Lucifer and Dan.
Didn't we see Eve's butt at one time?
Maybe.
I forget.
I'll have to rewatch.
Yeah, all right.
Let's do some research after this.
All right. And we got some foul language here and there. Again, what I liked, too, about it is, and I'm sure you would agree, is that moving to Netflix wasn't like taking off the reins. It was like, okay, we can do more, but we don't have to do everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of times with shows or properties, and we talked about it in our Rated R episode. You got a movie like Logan where sometimes the cursing felt too much. Like that's what happens when you go from a PG-13 movie to an R-rated movie. Yeah. But for this, the characters all still match themselves, and they were all in the same situations they would have been in. Just the camera angle was slightly different
to make it funnier.
Lower. Yeah, to make it funnier.
And what's great is that even Lucifer, he doesn't start cursing a blue streak. There's the occasional word here and there, and the F word is dropped once, and it's completely appropriate, and it's completely on brand for him too. It's not like, well, why haven't they been cursing beforehand? Well, it's like they just never came around to it. And so it is nice. I don't think the violence changed at all. It's a lot. The same.
Well, we're going to talk about the violence because that's in direct relation to the angel's powers. Mm-hmm. Some of the stabbings were a little bit more graphic, but otherwise there's a lot of people getting thrown. A lot of wire work.
So then, so again, as Paul mentioned a minute ago, season 6, which we don't have a date released yet, they have announced that will be the last season.
666.
Although, you know what? Money speaks, and
oh, absolutely.
If I know that Lucifer season 5 was in the top 10 of Netflix's shows for a while there, so who knows what happened?
Yeah. So you want to talk about the cast?
So
I'm
let's
psyched.
Talk about these guys. So of course, in the Lucifer spot, we have Tom Ellis.
I don't know anything about Tom Ellis besides this show.
Same here.
He's so good. He's got a very short filmography. I'm trying to think anything I've actually seen him in.
No, I mean I've looked at his stuff a fair amount of television stuff, and even I was like, oh, I don't know that one. I don't know that one.
I know I can't even see Family Guy.
Yeah, like there's a bit parts here and there. He really hadn't broken out.
Yes,
and I think we can all agree that he is the show.
Oh, absolutely,
he is everything. I have to say, there are times when I wouldn't watch if it weren't for him. He really completely chews the scenery. He breaks into this character. He's got his claws deep into it, and he embodies it. He embodies it to the point where he looks like, as an actor, he's having a tremendous amount of fun. Which then the audience, we also have fun with him.
Absolutely. Like a lot of the things about Lucifer come directly from Tom Ellis. They found out that he could sing when they went out for karaoke.
Yeah.
His English, his accent that everybody loves. Originally, he wanted to do Lucifer with an American accent, and that's why Michael has an American accent. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the little fine points of Lucifer are because of Tom Ellis, and he's fantastic in it, and he makes you like him. Like, that's one of the best things about this show. And we also dealt with this with Supernatural, where they really address the character of Lucifer, and they make him a character. And obviously we're not trying to offend anybody who based on your religious standpoint or anything, but typical biblical history shows Lucifer as the bad guy, the angel that rebelled against God and heaven and was cast down. You got your Dante's Inferno and all that stuff that tells the story of Lucifer. It's a story we all know. I actually really like in Supernatural, it wasn't until season 15 that we found out that Michael was the one who came to Earth and planted all these seeds in humanity so that God would see how much they loved him. That was a really cool, and that took 15 years for them to finally address that.
You bring up a really good point here that, some listeners and some people out there might go, oh my gosh, a show that shows, Lucifer, the satanic Beelzebub himself as sort of an empathetic individual. I got to talk about this, and I can talk personal experience on this too. Now, I was raised Christian. I was raised Greek Orthodox, and then, in college, I was part of a lot of the born again movement, and I've sort of fell away from that a little bit, but I've still retained a lot of my Christian roots. And as someone who has led church services and even given sermons on Sunday in church too,
wow.
I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
I have given a number of sermons. I have to say, the show, much like Dogma, is very respectful
of the source
material. It doesn't go into, oh no, the Bible was wrong about that. It kind of like builds upon it, and I have to say, Supernatural really was the first show that made me think about, wow, what if that's true? This is all written by men, and it's from one perspective, and they're suppressing other perspectives, and could you add on to this? And are there things I just haven't thought about? And there's a lot in here. The idea that Lucifer was going to hell was a sort of like a prison sentence, is fascinating to think about. That he's a bit more of a victim because he wanted to do something great and was punished for it.
And like even better, like the character of Lucifer, he's not there to punish people. He wants to see people get justice, like get what's coming to them. It's a big theme in the show where you create your own heaven and hell. Like Lucifer's the first one. He's like, I don't do anything. I grant favors, but I just bring out the desire that's already there. I'm just there to let people be themselves. Where they go when they die is their choice. By the way, full spoilers for the show up until season 5. I want to get that out of the way because I'm gonna bring this up when we talk about Dan, but Dan's death in season 5 is heart-wrenching.
Yeah, I know.
And
you said you were. Was that what you said? You had shed a tear at?
Mel and I were both like really like it. Just it hit us hard. Whether it's seeing the perspective of what he does for a living and seeing the aftermath of that, but and then seeing Lucifer actually get heartbroken, and for a character that he all he did was make fun of the whole show, and 2 episodes prior, he pranked him for like $12 million, like the prank cost. And then when he found out that Dan was in hell, he was like, no, you're going to go get him and you're going to bring him. And he's like, I can't do that.
What's fascinating about all this is that it is it's not disagreed with that there have been suppressed Gospels and suppressed books to the Bible. Remember that the Bible is made up of 66 books by various, I believe 40 authors, and there are several books that didn't make that cut.
The Da Vinci Code really brought that into.
Oh God!
Well, no, yeah, I'm not gonna say much. I enjoy the book, for what it's worth, and the movie's okay. But the Da Vinci Code was the first one to be like, look at all this Bible conspiracy stuff. Whether grain of salt with all of that,
some grain of salt, but there has been, there are various, if you ever want to see the apocryphal Gospels and the apocryphal books to the Bible, things that didn't make the cut, they're floating around out there. And what's neat is it doesn't disagree with anything, but it just gives you different perspectives and different, because it's just about every scholar will agree with this, that when the Bible was being put together, that the church had a huge role in terms of who and what they wanted as a centerpiece. And so they took a lot of the female written gospels and decided to not put them in there because they really didn't want women to have a large role in the church. And so my wife and I are constantly saying, if only we could get into the basement of the Vatican and see what's hiding
the
down
quote-unquote
there.
secret archives.
There are probably so many manuscripts down there I would love to read.
Be surprised.
And so it's neat to think that, is it possible that some of this is not far off base from what's true if you are someone who is a believer? So, I don't see it as going counter to a lot of my beliefs.
No, it's perspective.
Yeah.
It is the same story, like, Lucifer rebelling against God, getting cast down to heaven, and now he twists human desire. He brings out the worst in humanity. It's all that, but it's just a different perspective, and it's a different, it's basically just because when we're kids, especially, we are taught. Like the same with you, Rob. I was raised religious. I was raised Lutheran, which is a Christian offshoot. But and then in my more recent years, I'm a little bit more agnostic, where I like to believe in a higher power. I just can't believe it can be quantified and put in a book. That's just my own personal belief. I'll never downplay anybody's religious beliefs. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. Enjoy. Like it's nice to have that sense of comfort. But as kids, we're all taught the same thing. Oh, the devil's the bad guy. Hell's where you go if you're bad. Don't sin. Like all basic nuances of good and evil, and I think a good thing for kids to learn. But between this and Supernatural, to have a devil, like, and they even say it, they're like, that's your word, not mine.
Yeah.
Like, you made that word for me. To have like 2 Lucifers in our lifetime on television that we not only sympathize with, but also like root for. Supernatural a little less. But for this show, we constantly rooting for Lucifer. Yeah. But we'll keep going down the list because otherwise we're going to get so tangent. We got Lauren Germain as Detective Decker.
Yes.
The detective.
Chloe Decker.
A gift from God himself. Yeah, detective. But the love interest, the one who kind of gets Lucifer engaged into this world of police work where he finds his new sense of justice.
So give me a little bit about your feelings on Chloe Decker. Well, all right, let's start with this. How do you feel about her in terms of a portrayal?
Mixed.
Okay.
Melanie hates her.
Lauren hates her.
Melanie just does not like her. And I can see why. There are some episodes where she's very unlikable. Mm-hmm. I enjoy. There are qualities about her that I respect and I enjoy. She's a firm believer in right and wrong and justice, and she's always seeing things through. There are plenty of times where Lucifer's all right, case closed, pour the scotch, and she's like, no, there's something we're missing. I don't think this guy did it, and I don't want him to go to jail. Like, I respect that, I really do. And there are plenty of times where she cuts loose and she's fun, and like that's always a point. But then other times, like, she makes a decision, and I'm like, "Why? What are you doing?"
Do you think do you think that's more the script?
I think it's poor writing and not so much on Lauren Germain as an actress.
Okay.
I think sometimes her acting can be a little.
We've talked about how in our house she seems bored as the show goes on.
I think that can be. I think she's strongest in season 4 when she's really reacting to Lucifer. And finding out the truth, because she's in this constant and like state of anxiety almost, where like it's the most acting she does in the show. I think that change in her character really helped, because season 2 she drags. She's the staple, like the same, like this is what we do. She's almost like the exposition. She keeps the story going.
I know that Lauren has said that about her, that her decision to. She doesn't quite understand why she's fallen in love with him. Yeah. Because, he's so hedonistic. She doesn't, it's hard to buy into why she would fall for that. I can
see it because we also see his character arc. He does go through one. And obviously by the end of the show, he's God. Yeah. For Lucifer, like she gets to see some of those tender moments, like him playing board games with Trixie. Like
those moments are great.
Those moments are great, and she's seen him, and like also seen him she's seen him at literally his worst. Yeah. Where he's literally turning into a monster, and that's the other thing. He was vulnerable around her, like. So yeah, she sees the hedonistic side and like his more. I hate to say it, but the asshole side of him. But I also, she's the only character that also sees his tender moments and sees his internal conflict. You know, he always puts on the brave front, even like especially in front of Amenadiel, who we're going to talk about too, but or Maze. Like,
do you think it took too long for him to reveal himself to her?
I do, and he didn't do it by choice.
Right.
It was just because he had killed Cain at the time, and his devil face came back full force. I definitely think that they stretched that a little too much. Maybe it's just because season 2's too long.
Maybe.
I think
or season 3.
Or season 3, excuse me. But I think that was really...
Because I know there were several times where we were watching it going, you know, this whole she's not getting it that he really is Lucifer is just getting old fast. And then when he finally did reveal, it's like, we were, finally.
Yeah, it should have happened at the end of season 2, maybe.
Do you think they knew where to go after he revealed himself to her?
I think they had a plan, but I think the network shifts changed that.
Okay.
Because they would have had another season of 20-ish episodes instead of, I think, what was it? What did we say for season 4? 10 episodes.
Yeah.
So,
which is typical of Netflix shows.
Yeah, but I definitely she is my least favorite character on the show.
Okay.
Now let's talk about one of the characters that was my least favorite and then became one of my favorites.
Okay.
Kevin Alejandro as Detective Dan Espinoza,
or as we referred to him as
Detective Douche. Dan is one of those characters that went through a huge change, and the thing I liked about it wasn't always reflective of finding out the truth about Lucifer. When we first meet him, he's just Chloe's ex-husband. He's a deadbeat dad, and he's a corrupt cop.
Yeah,
which I'm really glad they did bring up in his.
Yes.
So basically, the thing that I loved most about the second half of season 5 was each character got an episode. There was the Dan episode. There was the oh my God, Ella? Yeah, Ella. Yeah, Ella. There was the Ella episode. You know, there was all these episodes that were devoted to a single character, and I think that really did justice to Dan. And they brought up, like, we forgot by season 5 that the first season is all about him being a corrupt cop for the most part. That's the B storyline for most of the show.
I feel like that Fox didn't really know what to do with that character.
It was much easier for him, especially compared to Chloe, who is the straight lace.
Yeah. It
was a lot easier. Well, here's our opposite. Like here's the counterpoint to show how good Chloe is.
Like that worked in the first season, and then I remember looking up on IMDb how many episodes he was going to be in, and it said like all of them.
Yeah,
like,
I think he's only not been in like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's not many. But I have to say I did not like him at all.
No.
And not like a what a loathsome character. No, I didn't like him. I thought he was boring and uninteresting. And the joke that he eats pudding was like the joke that lasted for like a season and a half. And like, who cares?
But I think they finally figured out how to write him as a boring guy, quote unquote, and make it funny.
Yes.
They really got him. Once they paired him up with Goddess, I think that's when he started to really.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And it's even better in the current season when he meets God. He's like, "I slept with your wife. I'm so sorry," and then he explodes.
I think when he decides to move, I didn't understand it at the time, but when he decides to move his desk under the stairs, and then I'm like, where is this going? And then I realized Netflix does know what to do with him. And, and I don't know if they changed showrunners or whatever, or if there was another producer added on, but they figured him out, and he was interesting again, as sort of like a foil for other people, though.
But he also turned into a character that was very reliable, especially, you know, Rob and I are both happily married to beautiful women, but
that's what I tell people.
I have to say that I'm happily married to a woman, because if I just say Rob and I are both happily married, people just think we're married, because we do argue like a married couple sometimes. But you know, to work with your ex in the same unit, that's got to be tough. They figured Dan out. They really did a good job with him, and you know, his death was powerful. It was poignant. It was well acted. Like, you know, when his last words were like, "Tell Trixie I love her." Like that's like gut wrenching. But yeah, they figured out what to do with him, and just
it's the best you can hope for is a good death.
Yeah,
I forget what that's from.
Killed by Chuck, of all people.
All right, so next we have Leslie Ann Brandt.
You skipped DB Woodside.
I did not skip him. He has fewer episodes than.
Oh, that's how you're doing. Okay, yeah. I was just going by the cast list.
Leslie Ann Brandt as Mazikeen. I have to say again, I think Mazikeen, other than, of course, Tom Ellis, Mazikeen is my favorite character.
Mazikeen is Melanie's favorite character. Yeah. Another character
to the point that
we named the cat after him, or her, excuse me.
Yes, yes. Paul has a cat. Paul and Mel have a cat named Maze, or
yes,
short for Mazikeen.
So named after her because we didn't know what gender the cat was when we first got him. Because apparently we got him as a newborn kitten, so they didn't know what he was.
Cat anatomy eludes me.
Yeah, well, apparently things have to descend.
Okay.
All right, but
and that concludes this episode.
So we named our cat Maze, and it just kind of stuck even after we found out he was a boy. So he's Mazikeen.
Mazikeen. Oh, that's the the masculine.
Well, actually, you know what we started calling him?
Mazikeen,
because she calls herself Mazikeen in the last season. But Maze is a character that they made not knowing what to do with her a story. Like she didn't know what to do with herself. And I still love the episode on the ski lodge with her and Dan where they team up.
Oh, yes.
Yep. That was like their first big team up, but I like her and Dan really worked well together, especially in this last season. They had a lot of great moments to the point where I was like, are they going to try and couple this? Because I don't want them to. I like that mutual respect and friendship. Even like when Mace dives in front of the bullet to save him, and he's like, you did that. She's like, I wouldn't really do it.
I love how psychotic and sociopathic she is.
Oh yeah.
Because I love her total lack of emotion, and that she's just, or I should say, maybe total presence of rage all the time.
Oh, I love it.
And that I have to say that she looks so cool with that shaven eyebrow part there.
Oh yeah. And the visual effects of her half face, which is from the comics, is really good.
She's a great actress. I don't know much about her.
Neither do I. But between her and Dan, she also has great stuff with Trixie. Mm-hmm. I really love it. She was in one of the Spartacuses.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
But
she was in Gotham for a little bit.
She's in my dreams. She was on Chuck for one episode. But yeah, I do enjoy Maze and just watching her story, especially when she finally gets her soul.
Okay, all right. Tell me why you like that.
I like that because it was something that they said couldn't be done, but then God's like, well, why not? Like, why can't it be done? I've seen weirder things. And it goes back to the show's theme of self-actualization, where you create your own life. And to see a demon who did, unlike Lucifer, reveled in the torture, like reveled in pain and like, just even more sexually promiscuous than Lucifer, I'd argue. The first scene you see her in, a dude's going down on her behind the bar, and you have no idea until he stands up.
Right.
Yeah, we rewatched the pilot, but
okay, because I didn't get that when I was watching it, because God does, of course, say to her, well, stranger things have happened, and then she just thinks she has a soul?
She self-actualizes it, just like the angels do.
But how did we know she actually has one?
Yeah, it's not until...
It's sort of like if I can believe it, I can achieve it kind of...
Fake it till you make it. Like it's almost like Sam in season 6.
Mastery, but whatever.
Oh, easy. It's like Sam in season 6 of Supernatural with the soulless, like, but there's no fanfare. Like, a lot of these shows would make, like, she'd glow white for a second. Like, they'd figure out. But I think it's not until she's dealing with Dan's death.
Yeah, that we see some emotion.
Like, when she breaks down, like, it's rough because you see this strong character for 5 seasons, been like the badass of the show, to the point where she went, I don't want to say she went toe-to-toe with Lucifer, because then at the end of season 5, or season 4, he wipes the floor with her.
Yeah.
Like, because they had this big throwdown at one point where, like, they both come out and they're all like, oh God, I can't move. But then in season 4, the last episode, he, like, levels her with a single punch because he's way more powerful. But to see her break down, and now, obviously she's dealing with love too, with Eve for the first time.
I like that relationship a lot.
I do too. I don't necessarily like Eve.
All right, since you bring her up, let's talk about Eve. As played by I got nothing. You got that?
Eve? Inar Lavi. Excuse me.
Oh, that's right. I always see that name. I recognize it visually, but I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. So she comes in season.
I know we're skipping a character, but we're
skipping a few. But
she's
season 3 or 4. I want to say 3.
Sure.
But she's basically the anti-Chloe. She's brought in as a foil to Chloe. It's got to be season 3 because Cain was there.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But she she turns into she comes around in the last episode of the season where she helps them save Charlie, and then disappears.
It grated on me for a while, but I still appreciate it because in the
Season
beginning
4.
she was an annoying frat girl.
Yes, and she was a groupie.
Yeah,
almost.
and like in the beginning, it was funny to think of Eve as like that, and then and then she stuck around for so long. That is neat though to think about how, because we all know the story of Adam and Eve, of course, and it's never specifically said that it was Satan in the garden, but it just says the serpent. But that is neat to think about that, she wasn't really into Adam all that much, and she was, and sort of the temptation of the serpent being there, of Lucifer being in the garden in terms of a sexual desire. That's curious to think about that. I don't.
Well, she was created for Adam,
Right.
and they bring up questions that even in today's modern society, the idea of free will and just because I was created for somebody doesn't mean I am for someone. So I like what they eventually, again, they bring up these really great philosophical questions and questions about the Bible where it's the same story, different perspective. Yeah. It's like if I hear a story from a third person who heard it, it's way different than when I hear it from the person it actually happened to. So I do enjoy what they did with Eve, and I'm glad they've been using her so sparingly. And I think when they brought her back in season 5, she was much more subdued.
Way.
But there was also still some of the aspect of her which I really enjoyed.
All right, so let's look at D.B. Woodside, who plays Amenadiel.
I love Amenadiel. He's the nerdy dad at this point, which is hilarious. Like that's what he turned into, but he's also still a powerful warrior who you've seen wipe the floor with some of the most powerful beings.
Yeah.
They make it seem like Lucifer is more powerful than Amenadiel. I still say that Amenadiel could beat him in a fight, though.
I think so, because also, I'm thinking that when God decides to retire, Amenadiel is the first choice.
He should have been, but...
And that would indicate there's more power there than there is with Lucifer.
And also Amenadiel was the good soldier. He was the loyal son. Very, very big themes in the Bible, especially, you got your Cain and Abel, your Lucifer and Michael in the Bible. Obviously, they read you. We didn't talk about Michael, but... because Tom Ellis plays him too.
Right. Which is, I have to say, a masterful
oh my God, he's
portrayal.
Tom Ellis is incredible.
I really believe those are two different people.
Especially when they're on scene together.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I knew he walked the limp, to make him. And it's not until Lucifer literally points out, like, you self-actualized a chip on your shoulder. Like, I was like, oh, well, dang it, now I get it.
He just the American accent, the hunched over, all of the little tics. It's not one of those things where it's like, look at me, I'm acting. Yeah. It's like a second fully realized character.
And Tom Ellis has done interviews since the season came out. He's like, it's exhausting. Like, it's hard for me to do Michael because I don't like Michael.
If you like that kind of thing too, where you've got actors playing multiple roles, if you ever get a chance to see Orphan Black, with Tatiana Maslany. I think I just massacred that, but anyway, she at one point plays like 6 or 7 different versions of a clone, and all together at the same time, and they're all different from each other. It's fascinating to watch. There are some actors that are just really, really great at creating very strongly individualized characters, and Tom Ellis seems to be like that.
Yeah, but getting back to Amenadiel, his story in season 1 or season 2 where he starts self-actualizing, becoming human.
I want to say 2.
Yeah, when like the shot of him looking at his wings in the mirror as they're like wilting away, and he just screams. I'm like, that's some powerful stuff.
I felt like he became a little too much of the earthbound, clueless dad.
They did the fish out of water stuff, and they still do to a point, but now a lot less in this past season.
And I think what you're getting from both of us is that this is not a perfect show.
No.
And in fact, I have to say, if putting this up against Supernatural doesn't even come close for me.
Okay, that's fair. I have to look at them differently. I can't compare the two of them because...
for me, if Tom Ellis wasn't in it, I'd have a lot more trouble with it.
Oh, absolutely. He does sell it. Like a lot of all these other actors are really good. And I really do enjoy D.B. Woodside as Amenadiel. But same thing. If Tom Ellis was not Lucifer, it wouldn't have even lasted.
Right. I think with Amenadiel, they just went... See, I think the show sometimes doesn't know when to let go of an idea.
Yeah.
Like they have great initially. I think the idea of him becoming a father with Linda was neat, and then it just kept going and going and going, and they didn't know how to wrap it up. I wonder if that's just a script problem with a lot of the writers for Lucifer.
Well, speaking of Linda, we have Rachel Harris, who is. She's the voice of reason.
Now, where do you know her from?
The Hangover.
Oh, see, I know her from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Oh, I do. I love Dr. Linda. I think she's a lot of fun with how she interacts with, because she's also the ones that will call out she's calling out archangels and God himself, respectfully, of course. And just I love it.
I do like the sort of Sopranos-esque approach to the show, with her being, the psychologist to this really powerful individual and helping them to work through their issues.
And I'm also really glad they got over the horny schoolgirl aspect of her, because, like I said, we
remember that in the beginning.
We rewatched the first season. I think we rewatched a couple of the first episodes because one of our other friends was trying to get into it, and oh my God! Like the first episode, she's like, "I do yoga. I'm bendy."
Yeah,
yoga.
I have to say, I think a lot of that discolored my future viewings of her, because that's all I could remember.
Yeah, it's exceptionally unethical, and just it doesn't sit well with me. No. But I'm glad they got over that. And moved on.
Fortunate though that they moved on to her being a paranoid mom.
Yeah, that stuff's not doing it for me. But also, I can understand that, because she also, like Amenadiel, thought that Charlie was going to have some sort of superhuman abilities. But yeah, they went too far. Bubble wrapping the whole house.
And just being like never knowing what to do and over worrying everything. I think there was one point she had a rant about her kid not getting into college or something like that. And like, she's a smarter character than this.
We have Scarlett Estevez as Trixie.
Oh, Trixie.
The most adorable child ever.
Yeah, she's kind of cool and cute. I think she's fun.
And for chocolate cake, she'll pretty much do anything. Like that's one of the few recurring jokes that I like.
Oh yeah,
where
it just shows up.
She just wants chocolate cake.
I have to say, and it's a credit to the actress, she works opposite adults really, really well.
Yes, she's a great foil for the adults. She holds her own acting wise. Again, when she finds out her dad is dead, oh man, that's the first time she really got to show her acting chops. She's got a future, that kid. Like she can really go far.
The moments when she and Mazikeen were sort of at odds with one another.
Yeah,
like she
same with Lucifer
really well.
too. She's a lot like Linda, where she's she doesn't know that Lucifer's really the devil. But she's not afraid to call out these adults who sometimes are just as clueless as a kid is. Sometimes she's the better adult than all of them.
And then we have Amy Garcia.
I love her
as Ella Lopez. All right, help me to love her.
You don't like Ella?
Okay. For me, she seems sort of put together by committee.
I can see that, where they're like, all right, let's take somebody who likes dark stuff and happy stuff. And Ella she was also a product of the Big Bang Theory time, where like they made like the nerds really just like the hot commodity. She's like always wearing like the nerdy t-shirts and stuff like that. But I like Ella because her gift is how, like, and even God says it, like your gift is your light. Like the light that she's just a genuinely good person who sometimes struggles with feelings of a not good nature. And
like the hugging and stuff, though, it just was like, it didn't strike me as like.
I know people like that though, who
and I don't like them either.
Yeah, that's fair. That's also just a personal preference for yourself.
It just seems too inauthentic and insincere when people do that.
Well, for Ella, it's just like, because we've seen her and just that's how she interacts with everyone, and I enjoy Ella because she's also really smart. Like it's not like she's just a nerd who is
right,
just conveniently good at her job. You can tell she puts in a lot of work. She's constantly helping them. She's only a lab tech, so there's no reason she should ever be out in the field ever. But I do enjoy her character. I didn't really like her in this past season, where they were like, you have this. If they had just left her as like the bubbly, like I'm just a happy person kind of thing, I think I would have liked her better. But you have this evil inside you. Da 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 da. Yeah.
Do you realize that when you start a list, you start with A and never get to B?
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's the second time you've done that this show.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out your lovable foible, much like Ella's lovable foibles with her fun shirts. I do get the shirts. I do like that.
I do like the shirts.
Here's the thing that I don't like about her is that and don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't like her. I do like her. I just, like, all of a sudden she just makes decisions that seem out of character, but the writers say, no, it's because she has a dark side. Mm-hmm. Like when she suddenly picks up, drug dealers and has sex with them, and yes, there are people like that. But they're not making me believe that she's like that because she's so sunny, and I'd like to see her. That's it. That's what it is. I want to see her struggling with temptation. Instead, we just see her all sunny and bright, and then we see her completely succumbing to temptation. We don't see that middle part where she's like, I don't want to do this, but I feel I have to do it. I want to see that. And then she has what really threw me was when she has sex with Dan. Where the hell?
Does she actually sleep? I thought they just made out.
I thought they went full on.
Oh, I don't remember.
And that, I'm like, where? I remember bursting out loud saying to Lauren, where is this coming from? There was nothing that telegraphed this in anywhere ahead of time.
Yeah, I don't remember that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But then again,
I'm not against her. I'd like to see her struggling. Like,
she could have better stories. She's it wasn't until the last season, or the previous season, season 5, that she got her episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, they dealt with her with the Whisper Killer, and kind of the ramifications of that, but I think they could have done a better job.
Like, I have to say, seeing Chloe struggle with the knowledge that he's actually Lucifer
Was way compelling.
It was, and it was real, because that's what faith is. Faith is a struggling to come to terms to a conclusion. And I don't see that with Anna. I'd like to see that part fleshed out with her.
Yeah, and we talk about, we brought up the idea of like the validation of these things that are real. Like for Chloe especially, and that's like she reacts like a normal human would. And I think that has something to do with like people who have a religious faith, they look for signs, right? Mm-hmm. And those signs could be something as subtle like when we're driving, if my wife sees a cardinal, there's an old wives' tale that a cardinal is a spirit from heaven that's there to visit you.
Okay.
That's but like for this show, that would be like if a cardinal the size of a truck dropped down from heaven and it's like your grandmother says hi. Like that's like that. Same concept, but now it's like real. And of course, like, and Lucifer's like, I always told you guys, like this. I told you guys the truth this whole time, like, and that was consistent in the comics too. Always telling the truth. His word is his bond. He never breaks a deal. So like,
and it was. I have to say, it wasn't initially in the comics. Like in the beginning of the comics, he does use lies to manipulate, but he does then come around to always telling the truth, which is a neat thing. All right, so then we've got the occasional guest appearances, and we'll start with the more prolific one, Tom Welling, which I got to say,
he was great.
I bet you were really like, this is awesome. It's Tom Welling.
So I was super excited because I was a huge fan of Smallville. One day we are going to do a Smallville retrospective because apparently that's coming back in an animated form.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, so one day we'll talk about Smallville because I know that's another show. It's all on Hulu, so like it's easy to binge. But again, it's another 10 seasons, 20-ish episodes each season. It's a lot. But Tom Welling he stepped away from the camera after doing Smallville, and he was very adamant about not being ever in the Superman suit and stuff like that because he didn't want that stigma attached to him completely. Yeah. But in more recent years he's done more interviews, and he's always been a very private person. He's great on the show, like because he's a character that's like completely conflicted, like whether or not he's trying to get what was the name of the bad guy? The Cinnaman?
Oh, the Cinnaman.
Cinnaman.
Cinnamon?
Cinnamon. Not Cinnamon. That's the stripper by the airport. But you got going after the Cinnaman, even though he is the Cinnaman. Yeah. And then it's about finding mortality. And then it's like, I don't want to be mortal. Like, he goes through you never know where you're going to go with him. So I really did enjoy him as a character. And, he was, again, a good foil to Lucifer.
And then I got really confused because Kane from Supernatural showed up on the show, but wasn't Kane.
There was Kane on
No,
Supernatural.
but the actor who played Kane
Oh, yeah,
on
different actors.
Supernatural
Yeah, yeah.
showed up in Lucifer, but he wasn't Kane.
As like the voice of God at some
Yeah,
point. Very
he was
strange.
like
he was a homeless
cabin
guy
in
who
the
found
woods kind of
he
god.
found like the God's amulet or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, I gotcha. A lot of crossover.
Tom Welling, like I think it's mostly just a personal thing. Is like I struggled with trying to understand him because he seemed so cut off and gruff at times. But I think that was part of the choice of Tom Welling. I don't know him well enough from no pun intended from a lot of other pieces to say anything about him. But it was neat. I will say he is a physically intimidating presence.
Well, it's funny because like watching him on Smallville, he was always very lean. He was never like a big jack dude for even to be playing Superman. Like, but he's also tall. He's got like a wider frame. But in this show, he's
intimidating.
It's funny because he was also in Crisis on Infinite Earths reprising the role, and they're like, "Is that the guy from the
chopping wood,
the brawny paper towel guy?" Because he's he's yoked. He's a big dude in this, and not like fat dude, like just like built, like a brick shit house, like
and
like a linebacker almost.
He got into. Let's see if I remember this. He was into it with Chloe, right?
Yeah, him and Chloe had their little thing,
which was believable actually.
Because
I got into it.
At first it was because he knew that she made Lucifer vulnerable, so he was hoping she would do the same to him, and then he ended up actually falling for her, which is even funnier. But yeah, he was a good one. We had let me get the name of her.
Oh, real quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
I was going to say Tricia Helfer as Goddess.
I'll come back with my person.
And Charlotte Richards. I enjoyed Goddess, for what it was. She was just a plot point.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good plot. It was a good story.
It was a great story, and it also it expanded the mythology, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I know we're running a little late, but Ronnie just got here. So.
My person that I want to really, really bring up is, as an '80s child, it was a huge thrill to see Rebecca De Mornay on the show, which I have to say she has aged wonderfully. Mm-hmm. She looks so fantastic. Rebecca De Mornay, I know her from Hand That Rocks the Cradle, from Risky Business, and so it's just like she's great. She's fantastic, and that she's playing that character too as sort of like an aging star just makes so totally cool sense.
Yeah, it's way better than apparently for those of you guys who were listening, and I'm sure you heard, Rob does not like Ella, which is still heartbreaking to hear.
We have new people in the studio.
Yeah,
I didn't. It's not. No, it's not that I don't like her. I said that she. Why am I saying this on the air? Why?
For those of you guys who don't know, producer Melanie is now in the studio along with co-host Ronnie.
I had said that I get that she's really, really sunny and bright and everything, and that she has darkness, but I never see her struggling with that darkness. I see her succumbing to it and denying it outright. But, like Chloe, when she struggled with knowing that he was Lucifer and that identity, she struggled with that faith. And I'd like to see Anna struggle so that way I feel like she's a real person.
Ella. I called her Anna twice now.
It's Ella. I want to see Ella struggle with that.
All right, so I think that's pretty much the cast for us. But I think we're gonna wrap up the episode.
I got a question for you before
hit me.
This will help us to wrap up. What do you want to see for season 6?
I want to see him as God, just messing up.
Oh my
royally.
Me!
Oh yeah, I want to see him learn his role as God, like because it was very easy for this season. He kept saying, he's like, if things go wrong, I'm just gonna snap my fingers and everything's gonna be fixed. I want to see him really struggle with the idea of you can't just fix things by. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. It doesn't matter who you are. Like the whole point of humanity is to be human, is to fail, is to try. So I really want to see that from him. What about you? What do you?
I'd like to see Uriel come back because that's Michael Imperioli, Brewster High School graduate.
Oh really?
Yes.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yes. No. It'll be. I don't know. I don't know. I feel as if. It will be fascinating seeing him trying to rule. The idea of Lucifer ruling heaven is like
not even heaven, the universe.
The universe. I don't know how Chloe's going to play. I hope we don't get whiny Chloe of like, oh, you're not going to pay. You haven't been paying attention to me while you're ruling the universe.
Yeah, that was one of my least favorite aspects of the last season. Like, I think it's an important job. But really quick, I do want to talk a little bit about the mythology of this universe, because it is very different from a show like Supernatural or something like that. But one of my favorite things is the theme of creating yourself. Like in this show, everything, and it's not until season 2 with the mystery of Lucifer's wings that we start to finally find out that Lucifer is the devil. Like, he has that devil face because that's how he sees himself. He's vulnerable around Chloe because he does that to himself. It's not her doing it to him. It's a way that he feels around her. Your Amenadiel's wings falling off, and then when he finally gets them back, because he realizes that he is a good angel and he is a good soldier. I really enjoy the idea. And then when they introduce hell, obviously, where it shows, no, you're here because you sent yourself here. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them. This show is really good about, like, whereas Supernatural was all about destiny and eventually fighting your destiny, this show is about free will. Like, it's 2 shows about free will in different respects. And I really enjoy seeing in Lucifer the ramifications. And even for these supposedly perfect archangels and angels who are all powerful, like they have faults, and they're not perfect.
Yeah, especially like Michael.
Michael, yeah, like who literally, like we said, manifests a chip on his shoulder.
Most churches view Michael as, the most perfect of angels.
The one who banished
to
Lucifer. And,
and seeing him just as such a creep.
Yeah,
is so cool. I don't know where this final season will go. I'm hoping that the showrunners have not painted themselves into a corner. I hope they have a plan after this. It would be neat if, like, the universe just ended in a pop because he caused the whole thing to implode.
I wanted to then rewind like Dan when he exploded, and he's just like, sorry. There's a button up in heaven that says "Do not push," and I had to push it. Like they could have some fun with it.
I just hope we don't lose what made these characters so special in the first place, which is Lucifer being this sort of insecure, hedonistic, soul-searching creature, and so I would love to be able to. What am I missing?
Oh, you were talking. I thought you were just describing Ronnie.
Oh, you're done. I just don't want to. I don't want them to lose what makes them great, and I don't want them to turn them into something that they're not. All right.
What a way to wrap the show up.
So that wraps up our show. And what am I supposed to do now?
So no fan.
I forgot. Am I supposed to? Oh, right. Go ahead.
Well, there's no fan feedback Friday because at the time of release it will be 4th of July weekend. So first and foremost, happy 4th of July. Yay. Please enjoy barbecues and time with friends and family, and listening to us, I guess.
Yes, because in places you can listen to us are places like.
So if you guys want to take us on the go, like we said at the beginning of the show, you can hear us on Podbean, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, which is Apple Podcasts, and I repeated it because Ronnie's freaking me out in the corner of my eye. And basically anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can hear us. So if you have an iPhone,
just say, "Hey Alexa," or no, wait, I'm sorry, wrong one. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Let's see. Hold on.
No, we're not going to do this on air. But you can find us anywhere, and the more likes, comments, and responses we get, the bigger the show gets, and the more content that we can create for you guys. We do have a lot of stuff planned over the summer, and we would love to interact with you guys as much as possible. Especially, Rob and I are both in a position where we have a lot of free time this summer.
Yay, summer!
Yay, summer indeed. So. Again, you can find us at our website, The Misfit Faction. You can find us on Instagram, The Misfit Faction, Twitter, The Misfit Faction. I really did not consolidate the names just now. Or YouTube, which is The Misfit Faction Media Network.
And feel free every Monday to check out new information and new postings on The Misfit Faction, which includes not only the latest podcasts from all of our podcast affiliates, but also reviews for Loki.
Also, if you guys can do me a huge favor, this is a personal favor. If you find Bibliophiles Assemble on Instagram, make sure you annoy the creator into creating her own podcast as much as possible, because, I think that would be a lot of fun and a very productive way to spend our time this summer.
We want her on the we want her doing that, and I will say, of the 4 of us, she's the best looking.
That's fair. That is fair. Sean just pops down, hey!
Oh, damn it.
But yeah, that wraps us up.
So thank you so much for joining us here on the Multiverse Fancast. We'll be back soon with big reviews coming up, with the release of Black Widow coming out soon, as well as the end of Loki. So as always, I'm Rob.
And I'm Paul.
And we'll be back
in a smorgasbord?
Flash.
Dang it.